After our 15-hour flight from Singapore, it was such a delight to be met at the San Francisco airport by Brad and Matt. Brad had arranged a late checkout from their hotel, so Cheryl and I enjoyed a well-needed shower before heading off on the 4-hour drive to Lake Tahoe. Cheryl and I had rented a house for 2 weeks, which turned out to be named Bears and was on Grizzly Mountain Drive. The following morning, we headed south on Highway 89, where we enjoyed a hike amongst the golden aspen trees and an alpine meadow. After descending the eastern side of the Sierra Nevadas, we drove north towards Carson City, the capital of Nevada. After lunch in Carson City, we drove back over the mountains on Highway 50 to Lake Tahoe, where we hiked to the top of Cave Rock and took in the views across the lake. A couple of evenings we watched the sunset over Lake Tahoe from Zephyr Cove. The scenic drive to Emerald Bay State Park has spectacular views across the lake to the mountains. We first hiked up to the Lower Eagle Falls. The falls are much more dramatic in the springtime due to the snowmelt. Fanette is the only island in Lake Tahoe and includes the ruins of a small stone tea house, constructed by the former owner of Vikingsholm. We then hiked down to the lakeshore and walked around Vikingsholm, one of the finest examples of Scandinavian architecture in North America. My tree-hugging wife hugging a ponderosa pine and Bradley. After some long-anticipated hugs from Mitch, we headed off to get a tour of Heavenly Ski Resort Village. It's always good to have a local show you around.
Where are we, Mitch? Where are you?
It takes you all the way out. And the thing is, this is the lookout center.
Okay.
It'll just keep going through. It'll go right here and then it'll come back down.
Okay.
And this is where you walk, and then this is where I worked. All that lovely stuff.
So you worked up around here too?
Yeah, and then there's a lift that you would take all the way up to here. Much lube on, and you go down. It'll gunk up the track, and so like you gotta like not.
We also walked through a couple of the casinos on the Nevada side of town. The weather was perfect for our clockwise 72-mile drive around Lake Tahoe.
I mean, it's kind of stressful.
A special thank you to Brad for doing all the driving. It was such a treat for me. And I got to meet Smokey the Bear along the way. We stopped at a picturesque beach park in Tahoe City and had a picnic lunch. After lunch, we continued on to Incline Village at the northern end of the lake, where we had coffee at an excellent coffee shop. Next stop was at an overlook on the northeast of the lake. I watched with appreciation and a little envy as a beautiful kayak was paddled on by. We learnt that the lake was 22 miles in length and the surface altitude was 6,225 feet and 1,645 feet deep. Returning to the South Lake Tahoe area, we dropped into the Beach Retreat and Lodge Resort, where Mitch gave us a tour of where he has been working.
Oh wow. Oh my goodness.
With so many scooters and bike rentals in the area, I did a little research and decided to use South Lake e-bikes. It was a good choice for both value and friendly service. We headed west on the bike path, where our first stop was Taylor Creek Boardwalk, overlooking beaver dams on the Taylor Creek that flows from Fallen Leaf Lake to Lake Tahoe. The e-bikes are such fun to ride and allow a group with various experience to comfortably ride together. Riding under the bright blue sky and golden aspen grove, the trails went over many scenic bridges and a meadow boardwalk. The bike's batteries were holding up well, but our caffeine levels were getting low, so we headed to Heavenly Ski Resort Village for coffee before reluctantly returning the bikes.
You don't have to give your bag, no.
Brad and Matt had headed back to Atlanta, and Mitch was working in the afternoon, so we dropped him off at work and borrowed his aptly named Ford Explorer to go exploring.
Hello everybody from Echo Lake at 7,500 feet in the Sierra Nevada mountains.
The drive up to Echo Lake included some dramatic switchbacks without any guardrails. However, we did find a less challenging drive back down the mountains. This hike includes a section of the PCT, the Pacific Crest Trail. The PCT is a 2,600-mile long-distance hiking trail that follows the crest of the Sierra Nevada and Cascade mountain ranges. Cheryl and I also did a hike in the Washoe Meadows, which happened to be just down the hill from where we were staying. Mitchell drove us over to Fallen Leaf Lake to see some lake homes and do another one of his favourite hikes. Fallen Leaf Lake is a 3-mile long alpine lake just south of the larger Lake Tahoe. This home had its own little railroad track to deliver supplies from its garage down to the lake home. The summer season had come to an end, so things were very quiet around the lake. At the southern end of the lake, we found parking where we started our hike. We hiked Glen Alpine Trail up onto a ridge where we admired the views and the fortitude of the trees. We took some photographs, had a snack, then headed back down.
Thanks, Mitch, for finding the best hike ever.
Thanks. Not the best hike ever.
It's pretty close to it.
Pretty damn nice, isn't it?
We certainly enjoyed Echo Lake, was fantastic too.
Still cabins more. Still regretting the fact that they're not composites. It's okay. It's California. It's crazy to think we hiked so far. We went further than I thought we did.
In September 2021, a devastating fire, which became known as the Caldor fire, burned for 2 months south of Lake Tahoe. Mitch and his roommate Keith were forced to evacuate when the fire closed in on South Lake Tahoe. From Western Australia, Cheryl and I watched the daily California Fire Department news briefs and videos posted by locals as the fires closed in on South Lake Tahoe. Mitchell suggested we do a hike to Horsetail Falls. This was a good idea as it gave Cheryl and I a fascinating insight to the damage caused by the extensive fire. On our last day in Tahoe, we drove up to Kingsbury area where Mitch lived when he first moved to Lake Tahoe. Mitch then drove us down the mountain on a scenic four-wheel drive trail. Time to leave our home for the last 2 weeks. Cheryl putting the garbage in the bear-proof bin. We took the bus over to Reno for the early morning flight to Denver and then on to Atlanta. Making the most of our extended layover in Denver, we took the train into the Grand Union Station. We walked around and had a coffee before heading back to the airport. Denver Airport prepared for the big winter snows.